Lawson told that he was losing the Red Bull seat? What does Gasly think about the Tsunoda-Lawson swap? And how are things going between George and Toto? Here is part 1 of summarising everything we learned from the Japanese F1 drivers' press conference. Starting with George Russell, he said that he doesn't think Ferrari and Red Bull have fully maximised everything that they've got, so the Mercedes F1 team isn't getting too carried away, but they know they are in the mix. Also, the car's pace has surprised them, especially during races. He called Lewis Hamilton the GOAT. Then he was asked how he feels about Toto giving him so much praise during the Chinese race weekend, and if it's nice knowing that Toto has his back, to which George responded that he's always known that Toto has his back, but he knows that people like things to be said publicly. However, he doesn't read social media or press, so he only found out that morning that Toto had been saying these things. And when asked about renewing his contract, he said that ultimately contracts are in place within F1, and things can change very quickly. In the past, contract negotiations with Toto have taken about 24 hours, so there's no real rush. Moving on to Gasly, he said that he does not want to comment on the Red Bull swap because we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. However, he did have a phone call with Tsunoda after he found out that Tsunoda got the seat, and it seemed like he was kind of sharing his opinions and advice. Also, he gave quite a glowing review of Tsunoda. He said he has raw pace, he's quite a strong driver, and he seems to have matured. Furthermore, both him and Lawson were asked whether they needed a bit more time in the sister team before moving over to the Red Bull seat, but Gasly said he doesn't feel like this was his limitation. He said there was more to it at the time, but he's not going to expand into further details there. Moving on to talk about his current team, he said that he is fully confident for the next 3 races. He thinks they are going to be in the mix because there were things that they obviously did wrong in China that they already know they can change. Lastly was Lawson. Obviously, he was not expecting this to happen as early as it did, but it was out of his control, it's not his decision. So he's going to make the most of the opportunity that he has now. And throughout the press conference, he was repeating that sentiment. When asked about finding out, he said that he had no idea whilst he was in China, and the news was broken to him via a phone call. He said it was presented to him as a done deal, and I interpreted the other things that he said to mean that he didn't really get the chance to kind of fight his case. But he was quite surprised when he actually got the call, especially because it is so early on in the season. He was hoping that he would kind of be able to prove himself in Japan, because it's somewhere that he's raced before, and he was hoping that he would have a clean race weekend. Furthermore, he was kind of hoping that they would take into consideration the number of things that happened to him during the 2 race weekends that were pretty much out of his control. So after he found out, he had about 2 days to think about the change, and then he was straight back at it at the Racing Bulls factory doing things like seat fittings. Now, he doesn't think too much has changed with the Racing Bulls car, so he thinks he'll be able to slot into it relatively easily, but he now has Yuki Tsunoda's race engineer, so that's a little different. Moreover, it did seem like he was saying that they had discussed the possibility of him returning to the seat further down the line. Overall, this situation hasn't changed his self-confidence, but he pointed out that he has been working towards that seat since he joined the Red Bull Junior program when he was 16 years old.